What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals, we're here, baby. We're here. We're finally here for our top 10 movies of 2023. 2023 has been a stacked year when I went through. I have added a couple movies since I counted, but I've got myself up to, I think, 74 new movies this year, which I think might be the most ever.
You crushed it this year.
What do you mean?
You crushed it. That's a lot. I remember last year we were talking about how
Usually
we
I
didn't
average
feel
the
like there was
60s.
much good stuff coming out.
Yeah, I usually average about 60 movies, most of them in the theater. Almost
That's
all of
about where
these
I'm
were
at
in the
too.
theater, but
Mhm.
I ended up having a few more. Like there's some wacko ones that I never even like. I watched the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers once and always on Netflix. That counts. It's part of the year, so
Oh,
I
there's a new
tossed that
one?
in here. Yeah. Oh yeah, baby.
Oh, might be
Um,
on the list. Who knows?
but I think I'm around 74. I actually think I've still missed a movie or two. I don't think I missed anything that deserves the top dogs here for best of the year. But
And there's still plenty more movies that just, haven't been distributed out to
yeah, we
theaters
haven't gotten
yet.
a chance to
And,
see even in the
you
big
know,
city. I moved across the country just to get a chance to see these movies, and I still missed them.
still
I had a couple
still taking them
opportunities
time.
earlier in the year at the film festival, but I wasn't able to make those work. But movies like Origin, I still want to see from Ava DuVernay.
Mm-hmm.
American Fiction, I've really wanted to see. I really want to see The Zone of Interest. The movie, whatever you were talking about, that's on Apple and YouTube. I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and watch, but meant to last night. Never really got a chance. Was busy with my pet all day. He was at the vet.
Poor
He's
guy.
doing great. No, he's doing good. He's just
Good.
diabetic.
Good,
We had to get
good.
him on diabetes. Got to get him some insulin. It's expensive.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you, Mill patrons, Kimberly, Karen, guys. Help us get to 2,000. And once we cross that threshold, we're going to give one of these good-looking hoodies, one of these good-looking bad boys away to someone who's been commenting and supporting the channel. We really appreciate it. Go check out the other videos. Started the new year. We got this, our most anticipated of 2024. This will probably drop on New Year's Eve tomorrow. So happy New Year to all of you. And yeah, Kyle, is there any special way you do this every year? How do you make your list? Do you keep track on Letterbox all year, or what do you do?
This year I did. This year I made it into a private list, and as the year went on, I threw in the movies that just impacted me right away, and I just see if from there if they last throughout the year, if I'm still thinking back on them, if I'm still being left with an emotional impact by then, if I'm still thinking of the craftsmanship, then I just weave them in and out, and I just continue on that way and just visualize my list as the year progresses. That's how I did this year because I finally hopped on the bandwagon and used Letterbox.
Yeah, I love Letterbox. I do not use it for this aspect. One of my favorite things of the end of the year is I sit down, I open up two browsers, split my screen in half here, and I go to Movie Insider and I just go through what came out in 2023. Sometimes I miss a thing or two because sometimes they'll put something limited or vice versa. And I just literally type them out in a big old document. I don't even do a spreadsheet. I love doing it in the document, doing a Word doc. I write them out old school. And then I'll translate it to Letterbox later. But I just like doing it. I like seeing it, see how long, and then I compare my lists. I can just pull them up, and then what I do is I write the word contenders, and then I go and I copy and I paste down in the contender section. I had about 25 movies in my contenders right away. Then I review them and go, well, maybe this isn't a contender. I take a bunch of those off. I took a few off, whittle it down to 19, and then I rank the 19. And that's how I get my honorable mentions in my top 10. Some years it's less than 19. This year was kind of a stacked year, but
which was nice.
Oh,
It
this is a
feels
great year for movies.
as much as the top 10 lists are fun. I do feel like this year more than the past few has made it much difficult to get the top 10 just right. Normally there's years where I make the top 10, I'm like, yeah, I'm good, I'm satisfied. But this year, there was just a lot of flip-flopping, a lot of second guessing on my part, and this year was just exciting. There was just a lot of different stuff, different genres, very creative stuff from very creative filmmakers. I felt like we're just a smorgasbord of everything, which feels refreshing. I mean,
it is.
It feels like that hasn't really happened to the level that it was this year as compared to past few years. And I'm hoping that continues and that becomes I don't know, a trend. I don't know if that's the right word to describe
Just
it,
a lot
but
of independent and a lot of different. I mean, even Barbie as a IP is still very independent in its feel and its make, and it's nice to see that when all the blockbusters kind of failed, other than maybe one or two of them that I think will make a couple lists or honorable mentions. But
yeah, in a world where all of the blockbusters can feel so samey nowadays, it was nice to have a year where people almost, for the most part, unanimously agree of like, hey, we want different again.
yeah,
Like, so it's funny that you brought up Barbie, because I think that's a very good example of that.
I think in most years, I think we average more than 50%. I would guess 70% of the time over the last decade we've been doing this, we have almost always had a very similar list. Over the last few years, it's diverted a little bit. Most
Last
of the time,
year's was very different.
Last year's was very different.
Yeah.
I think we ended up still with the same number one, though, didn't we? Didn't you have Everything Everywhere All at Once as your number one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. But there's been a couple years we haven't had the same number one, but sometimes it does. I know the year Dune came out, we had separate number ones because Dune was my first, but it wasn't yours.
Yeah.
Wrongfully so. But all right, let's get into it finally here. Kyle, what are some of your honorable mentions? Then I'll rattle off mine.
Honorable mentions, no particular order. We have Theater Camp, underrated comedy, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Mission Impossible 7, Nimona, Ninja Turtles.
Wait, go back. What was before Ninja Turtles?
Theater Camp.
No, after Theater Camp. Did you say
I said Spider-Man. I said Mission Impossible 7. Nimona?
Is that what you're saying?
Nimona, yeah.
What movie is that? I've never even heard of that.
Anime movie on Netflix. You should. I made a review of it.
No, I watched it. Oh my gosh, that movie was excellent. See, this is what happens on my list. I got to add it to my list. We're up to 75. That movie was very good. In a very good year of animated.
It was. That's so true. Like 3 of these anime movies could have like snuck into my top 10. And then I'll cap it off by mentioning Asteroid City and John Wick 4.
Man, you really loved Asteroid City that much? It's an honorable mention. I watched it for the first time the other day.
Yeah.
I liked it more than I thought I would, but I did not love it. It's not going to be an honorable mention.
Yeah,
I've got 9 honorable mentions here, and I'm going to go no particular order, but I've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I think is the only real super big blockbuster other than Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, which are my two honorable mentions. I have Air as an honorable mention. I loved that movie. I think it will still contend at the Oscars, and I think rightfully so. Iron Claw, which I just saw as an honorable mention, and I loved it. I loved it. John Wick Chapter 4 is an honorable mention for me, as well as Killers of the Flower Moon, The Boy and the Heron, which was hard to put out. I've got these so close to the top, but dang, it was tough to pick. But Killers of the Flower Moon, Boy and the Heron, and Dream Scenario are capping or my honorable mentions. And I got one more honorable mention, and this was honestly the hardest not to put in. And I had a very hard time with Killers, John Wick, Dream Scenario, and The Boy and the Heron. I mean, I wish I could do a top 15. But because when I come down to it, Mission Impossible, Iron Claw, Air, and Guardians, I'm okay leaving as really honorable mentions. The rest, it hurt my soul. But and I put this at number 11 in my rankings, is the movie When Evil Lurks. Phenomenal. Balls to the wall, crazy horror. I loved it. I was sick one day. I had heard nothing good. I had only heard good things about it, nothing but good things about it. I was sick. I know it was on Shudder, so I paid for a month of Shudder over Halloween, sat in bed and watched it, and I was blown away by how freaking good it was. So I have When Evil Lurks at my number 11. I thought it was freaking fantastic. But let's get into it here. Kyle, what's your number 10?
I should have made my Spider-Man honorable mention last. I should have had that be the kicker for you.
That's wild. That's not in there, man.
I mean, there was 2 of yours in your honorable mentions. I'm like, I almost thought for sure you would have had them in
Killers
your top
and
10.
What else? John Wick or Boy?
Boy. It was Boy. Yeah.
There's a 3-way battle for animated movies, and one Boy and the Heron's the one that didn't make it. I got 2 in my list here.
Okay. Okay. All right, so you ready for my number 10?
Yes.
Just sneaking in at the very last second is the Iron Claw. We'll do a review. Good. We'll do a review of it for another time, but I was very taken away by this tragic story of this
Mm-hmm.
wrestling family that had to deal with the pressures of a overbearing, toxic father figure,
Mm-hmm.
and having to see one of the brothers portrayed by Zac Efron having to have the weight put on his shoulders for the family, despite wanting to do that, but not in the way that the family tragedies ended up winding up happening. So between very good direction and having just a slow build of this dread coming throughout the movie, it just weighs on you as you leave the theater. And I just thought it was a terrific performance by Zac Efron, and it just left me very sad, but at least it left me with a little bit of hopefulness at the end of the movie. Like that ending scene just really
Whew.
hits you in the gut in all the
I'll
best
uh
ways.
I'll tell you this just real quick about Iron
Mm,
Claw. About halfway through the movie, I was like, I'm not loving it. I'm liking it. Why am I
I
not
know
loving it? And
that.
then
Yep.
I sat in the theater and then I went, oh, wait a minute. This is all intentional. This is
Mm,
direction. He's making me want to feel this way because I want the characters to be doing one thing and they're not doing it. And I
mm-hmm.
want them to be doing this thing. I want them to lash out. I want them to stand up for themselves, and they're just not doing it yet. And it makes the end of the movie way more impactful. Oh, the movie's brilliant. I've totally, I mean, it was an honorable mention for me. It could have competed in there, but
Yeah.
great movie. I really hope Zach gets a nomination because he's not going to win in a year with Cillian Murphy and all these other heavy contenders. But man, I really
Giamatti,
hope he gets
Cooper.
nominated. Yeah, Bradley
Yeah.
Cooper, Leonardo DiCaprio. But anyway,
Names are a little bigger.
my
Yep.
my name number 10 is Suzume. Came
Mm.
out earlier this year. It is brilliant. I loved The Boy and the Heron. I do think it holds up as one of the best Ghibli movies, but I kept I was watching some other people's top tens of the years, and a couple critics I really like had it in theirs. And I was like, oh, yeah, Suzume. And I started rethinking about it again. I was like, dang, Suzume really was freaking phenomenal. It made me feel very emotional and impactful. So I gave the edge to Suzume here. That's my number 10. If you haven't seen it, you got to go run and check it out because it is a brilliant movie, breathtaking animation. It's going to hit you
Mm-hmm.
right in the feels in all the best ways. So I'm going Suzume. But all right, Kyle, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Priscilla. I thought that Sofia Coppola's direction was terrific, and it really showed a young woman having to grow into womanhood far too soon and having to deal with the pressures that Elvis Presley as a partner put on her, while at the same time showing what laid beneath the relationship to what she found attractive and what she found interesting about Presley the person. So a very deliberate movie in towing that line between showing both sides of the relationship, both the good and the very bad of it all. But I thought it was just incredible work by Coppola, and I also really loved the lead performance. So by Kaylee Spaney. So it
Her
lands at number 9.
performance is excellent. Her performance
Yeah,
is really good. Probably will
I
get
hope
an
she gets
Oscar
some love
nomination.
this award season, but
It's
that's
a tough year. Tough year for the
I
ladies
know.
in both categories.
Yeah.
My number 9 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
I can't believe it's not in your top 10.
I can't
I
believe it's that high or that low.
well, again, in a stacked year, and
I
where I
know.
do think I don't think the second one loses any magic of. I think, and I don't necessarily know if the sequel is better. I think they're both 10 out of 10 bangers who belong super high up in these lists. It's just a
Hmm.
stacked year. I've watched it 3 times this year. I remember I was sitting back and I was like, man, I really did watch Spider Man 3 times. I caught it on a plane. I watched it again. So this movie's brilliant. The animation still. I think in a year where Boy and the Heron comes out, Suzume, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, movies where animated movies are really expanding their range, I think it still holds up so much with how it looks and feels, and the story, it gets bigger and yet smaller in the same best ways, and it's just really, really great. It's a phenomenal movie. I'm shocked it's not in your top. You really just hate anything superhero these days, but I think it belongs in the list here. So I think it's phenomenal. So I put my 2 animated at the back here: Spider-Man, Suzume.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Spider-Man, I will say, teeter at that number 10 spot in that three-way tie I think I was mentioning earlier. But
Could
speaking
be
of superhero
recency bias.
movies,
Oh,
recency bias. Yeah,
the
well,
Marvels, huh?
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, number 8 is the Marvels. No,
Aquaman.
it's Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I thought James Gunn did a terrific job at
He
tying
did.
up his trilogy of Guardians movies, but at the same time, I really loved the raw emotion that doesn't feel typical of most blockbusters that we've seen over the past few years. I really love that it felt more personal to James Gunn compared to some of his most other movies. And I thought, everyone came to play. Everyone brought their A game when it comes to the cast and crew. I thought the costumes and production design was also very good. But Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon, I just thought he does a fantastic job in all three of them when it comes to voice acting. But I thought he
had more to
brought
do
it
in
up
this
another
one,
level.
I think is the biggest thing. He has more to do. He give a great actor the more to work with, he's going to make something better. But yeah, Guardians was excellent.
Yeah.
My number 8 and my number 7, I think, are basically, I can flip-flop them. So you can count 8 as 7. You can count 7 as 8. You can keep them both at 7. To me, I think they're pretty much interchangeable. But I put number 8, Poor Things. I think Poor Things was brilliant. I loved what the message it says. Go check out our review of it. We just had it up the other day. Actually, I don't think it's up quite yet. But it will be up by the time this video's up and you're watching. But Poor Things was excellent. Triumphant performance by Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo, and the whole cast. Willem Dafoe is excellent in it as well. So I think Poor Things right there shocked me in some of the best ways this year. Brilliant. I got Poor Things.
Alex, you ready
number 7?
You ready to be blown away?
Or number 8? Are you doing 8 or 7?
7. I'm doing 7 now.
Is it Poor Things?
No.
Oh, what is it?
It's not in a good way, by the way. Blown away, and you're not going to like this one.
Oh.
At number 7, I have Barbie.
Oh, I'm okay with that. I didn't think it was going to be high up at all. To be honest, if it didn't make your list, I would have been... It would have been very Kyle. It would have been very Kyle. That was
very disappointing. That was very anticlimactic. It's actually my number 1.
It's Kyle, you're so on brand, it's not even funny. I didn't think Barbie would be a hard-hitting contender for you. I'm not surprised. I thought I did think it was going to make your top 10. I don't think I would have been shocked if you had said it in your not honorable mentions. Mm-hmm. It could have been anywhere 1 through 10, and I think it would have been very par for the course. So
bummer, I wanted to shock you. No, but in all genuality, it landing here because the movie, as we were mentioning earlier, was just a breath of fresh air in terms of of the scale of a blockbuster, in that it had its own independent voice, despite it being coming from an IP in Greta Gerwig, when it comes to the independent voice side of it. And it just, with a breath of fresh air, it was fun, it was humorous, it had a lot of charm and wit to it, and I think you could just tell that there was so much love being put into this movie, not just from her direction, but also from the cast, with great performances by Margot Robbie and as well as Ryan Gosling, who I love that he does goofy comedic characters such as this in The Nice Guys, which is your reminder to check out The Nice Guys if you haven't seen that.
So good.
But
Best Shane Black movie.
There's just a lot of great craft and care that put into Barbie that just made for a great summer, but it made for a great memorable time watching the theaters. So I have to put it there.
All right. What am I on? Number 7. So my number 7 again and number 8, they can be intertwined here, but I have Saltburn. And I know that's nowhere near for Kyle, but Saltburn is fantastic. And I don't understand why Kyle is having such a big reaction. It's not nearly as bad as he's reacting. Saltburn's incredible. I've seen it on other people's top 10s of the year.
That's crazy to me. Even if you like it, I don't know how it's a top 10.
Stop being mean. Can you let me breathe? Jeez. I don't even get to talk about how much I love the movie. This is my list. Get out of here. Get out of here. It's not a movie.
I get to have my emotions.
You don't get to be rude. Saltburn's fantastic. I thought it was weird in the best ways. I think it shocks you in the best ways. I was blown away. I do think the environment I was in, seeing at the film festival, really helped. I was with a lot of deep film buffs who were all just kind of gasping and awing at the same time, which I thought was really great. And it was a good theater experience is what I'm trying to say there. And I loved Saltburn. I think about it constantly. Every time I think about movies, I go back and I think about Saltburn. To be honest, I was shocked it was this low. It's fantastic. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I think it is some of the best of Emerald Fennell. I can interchange them. I think Poor Things and Saltburn shock you in very similar ways, where Poor Things has humor to offset the dark, and Saltburn uses very sparingly humor, but not in the same way. So it's it's much more dark in tone, I think, overall. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. So it's my number 7.
All right. Here we go off to number 6. Number 6 for me is Anatomy of a Fall. A
I haven't gotten a
movie.
chance to see it. I want to. It's on my list.
The movie's terrific. At first, I was watching it, and it was kind of like what you were mentioning about Iron Claw, in that I like it, but I'm not sure if I love it. But as time goes on, and you just see the story unfold onto itself, you can't help but be latched in and just be sad and heartbroken at the same time. Like, it does have such a way with bringing out your emotions and your frustrations when it comes to seeing this trial that gets put on display about this couple, and it especially is heartbreaking when the child played by Milo Mikado Graner, who does a terrific performance, by the way, is in the middle of it all and is kind of experiencing like how troubling that relationship was when he didn't realize it. So I just think it's a very good procedural drama, but at the same time, it also does a great job at showcasing how the tragedies of a problematic relationship and how you come back and revisit them can be almost as, if not more, heartbreaking and hurtful to revisit than it was experiencing them for the first time. And it just left me in such a depressing state, but the movie does a very good job at just bringing out all sorts of emotions within you. So number 6 for me is Anatomy of a Fall.
All right. My number 6, we'll see if Kyle scoffs this time, but I doubt it. My number 6 is The Holdovers. I loved The Holdovers. It really was a competitor for top 5. I honestly should have it in there, but I just love all the other movies so much.
Yeah.
The Holdovers literally is what a warm hug feels like. It's brilliant. It's phenomenal. It's a Christmas movie in the best ways, where it makes you feel all the emotions. You do feel down in the dumpers at one point, but then you come back feeling even better, which I think is some of the best thing Christmas movies do, even if it was unintentional as a Christmas movie for this. But I can see myself watching this every year around the holiday season because I just loved how it made me feel. The performances are immaculate. They're fantastic, especially by the young boy who it was his first movie ever. So
Mm.
I'm just blown away by how much I love The Holdovers. That's my number 6.